Welcome to State of Ed, a podcast about education inside the classroom and out. My name is Marc.
And I'm Nick Simone.
How are you doing today, Nick?
Okay, 1 week away from the advanced placement exam, so kids are getting excited.
Very nice. Now, when you say kids are getting excited, are you getting excited, and or are they getting excited?
We all are. We're all in it together. And they've been working very hard, and it's a tough time, especially for the juniors. They're taking the SATs today, and then they have 2 weeks of AP exams following, but they'll get through it.
Well, with your coaching and your mentorship, I have no doubt that they will do very, very well. Speaking of things that are going well and people who are excited, both of us are excited to have Ryan Krakofsky with us. He is a digital literacy coach in Hong Kong, and he's in Hong Kong by way of Ontario, Canada, and has been an educator for roughly 7 years. And we have a whole lot of questions to ask him about his experiences out in Hong Kong. So, Brian, welcome to State of Ed Podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
So, can you take us through a little bit about how you found yourself at an international school coming out of Canada?
Okay. Well, after my Bachelor of Arts degree, I wanted to do something different. A lot of my friends were looking to get jobs right away, close to home, and I wanted to do some traveling. And I thought, what a great way to travel, to teach overseas for a year and give it a try. So I was applying for jobs in Japan and Korea, and decided on Korea and went to Korea for a year to teach English at a small after school academy for English learning. And I really enjoyed teaching. Thought I had a knack for it. So decided to come back to Canada, get my Bachelor of Education degree, and start applying for jobs again, but at international schools, and ended up getting my first job out here in Hong Kong at a local school, and yeah, it's been a wild ride since then.
And you're part of the IB PYP program. So for those who are unaware, can you explain a little bit more about what that is?
Well, it's a curriculum. It's a framework. It's an approach to education that values inquiry-based learning. The PYP is based around 6 major units, and these units last anywhere from 5 to 6 weeks, and they really drive everything the students do. They bring in social studies, geography, history, and all of these things into these big ideas. And these are kind of units that they change as the learners change and their needs change. So I think it's a really great approach to education. It's one that's very flexible and one that allows me to bring a lot of my creativity and passions in it.
So when you first got the job, did you go to like a recruitment fair in Canada, or did you just research this on your own? How did you actually make that first connection?
I first went to a recruitment fair in Canada. And I didn't get a job out of that fair. It was very difficult as a brand new teacher with only 1 year of ESL experience to get jobs at the leading international schools around the world. So I ended up having to get a job a little bit later through a different channel.
We're going through a massive technological transformation, and it's changing every single aspect of the classroom. How does a digital literacy coach even begin to tackle these kinds of massive new challenges in this new frontier?
Well, I'll tell you, it's very challenging. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves because we see things changing in society at such a rapid pace. We feel like we need to bring it in immediately. But that just doesn't happen in schools because schools don't, move that quickly. They move a bit slower than the pace of society, from what I've experienced in my past. But it's basically doing the best you can with what's available, with what you have, taking into consideration how students are learning about their different passions and interests on their own. And just keeping up with everything, staying on top of things through Twitter, reading websites, blogs, YouTube, and just knowing what technology is available, knowing what technology is coming next, and trying to get students to think in a way where they can apply themselves and adapt some of this technology.
What kind of technology is available for your students?
Well, in my school right now, we have lots of different things. We have, different types of robotics. So, depending on the age of the learner, with our little ones, our year ones, year twos, we use these little blue robots called Dash and Dots, and that teaches foundational programming skills. And then, as they move up in the years, they are introduced to coding on a program called Scratch. Also, we have these robots called MBots or MakeBlock, and they are really adaptable robots where you can add and modify them and program them any way you like. We also have Microbit, and Microbits are small little they're microcontrollers, and they can offer a lot. You can add different sensors and program the sensors to do different things. You could be building robots with them and so on. So those are the main coding resources we have. Along with that, we're looking into more ways to involve students in augmented and virtual reality. We have a class set of smartphones with the VR headsets, and getting students immersed in different experiences and environments all around the world as they inquire into different topics. So we're right now we're a 2-to-1 school. So for each student there's we're one device for 2 students, and it's an iPad and MacBook environment. So trying to incorporate lots of different things like the G Suite and different web-based programs all the time.
Is there a lot of rock paper scissors going on for who gets to?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it can be tricky getting the right devices when you need them. But
is there a Hong Kong version of rock paper scissors, or is it just rock paper scissors universally?
What's it? Kai Bai Bo, I think.
Really?
It's either Korean or Hong Kong. Kai Bai Bo. I think it's Hong Kong.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I was sort of asking facetiously, but
oh no,
I didn't realize
it's a universal game.
Oh my God!
I'm sure they have it everywhere.
Oh, that's amazing.
All of that sounds very impressive. And, Mark and I, we work at the high school level primarily. We're 7 through 12 schools. So it's great to hear. I'm just curious, your own educational experience in Canada, did you go to schools that were, technologically advanced and provided you with the foundation, do you think? Or was it a little bit further behind?
Well, I'm not sure if we were behind or not. I just knew the original Apple computers, learning how to type, playing Carmen Sandiego, playing the Oregon Trail. I remember Pac-Man and Lemmings and all the early games. Beyond that, I'm not sure where we were at in our development, or in our progression in technology. Technology came to me at a later point. I had to teach it to myself just by using it, by being a frequent user of it. Yeah.
So you taught it to yourself because you, I'm assuming, had an intrinsic desire / need, individual need to want to know. But not every teacher that you're working with and supporting in your school, I would imagine, has the same relationship and openness, perhaps, to technology. So how do you tackle that particular demographic of educator who perhaps hasn't bought in quite yet as to the potential magic of the digital tools that are available?
Well, I think everyone has bought in personally to some level because they have a smartphone, they're using WhatsApp, they're using some other basic apps in their day-to-day, whether that be their calendar or so on. If they haven't necessarily bought into it on the educational side, we try our best to work with those teachers and try to show them examples of what some of their colleagues are doing, some positive changes that they're making in their classes with technology. And sometimes you just need to leave them alone and let them do their thing for a while. And I generally see most of them come around once they see that it is adding value to some of their team members. But you can't reach everyone. You can only try to get most of the people on board, and that's my goal.
It's so I think we all agree, those of us that are willing to embrace the technology. I think we do get frustrated by the staff members that are just unwilling to do it. But what do you think are some of the most innovative ways that you can bring technology into the classroom? I'm just always, again, with the younger grades, I love getting the insight because we don't get that experience, and we just see the kids as they're coming up. And at least from my own personal experience, we get kids from several different elementary schools, and you can really tell which schools are really trying to prepare kids for 21st century learning, and which schools are still stuck in the 19th century model. So I'm just curious at the younger grades what you guys try to accomplish.
Well, I think just some of the essentials. We're using a program called Seesaw across our whole school. It's basically a digital portfolio. It's a tool to reflect, to share anything that they have, anything they've done, any kind of reflection they want to give for any kind of learning, and that goes directly to their families. This can be work that's done on paper. This can be work that's done digitally, and just getting the students in the habit of sharing what they've done, reflecting on what they've done, and then getting that feedback from their families or from their teachers, from their classmates, and then communicating back about that feedback. I think that's a really important part of their learning at the early ages.
Is that a web-based program?
That's a web-based program. Yes, they have a free and a paid service. The paid service has a lot of extra features, and it's cheap as chips. It's just a couple bucks US per child.
So is that something where like the teacher, the student, and the parent would all have access to it?
Yeah, so it's basically like an online classroom. It's kind of like Google Classroom, but it offers some functionality that Google Classroom doesn't. So that's something that has been a really nice addition to our school.
Do you know if it's specifically geared for elementary students or?
No, I know it's being used in high school as well.
Do you have any contacts back home in Canada who are also teaching on the elementary level, and do you compare war stories, and are you finding that similar things are going on in Canada as well?
Well, I don't know enough about what's going on to make sweeping statements about education in Canada. Just from the teachers I've been talking to, they say they do have technology in their school, meaning they do have devices. But the problem that they face is they don't have someone like a coach or a tech department to help facilitate this learning with technology. So they say that their devices, tend to collect a lot of dust and don't get a lot of use throughout the year. And that's that's going to happen. You need someone who's on the ground level, working with the teachers, working with the students, the parents, the admin on making this an important part of these students' education. So
Yeah,
that's all I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're making a great point, and I think there are districts that obviously run the gamut out there all over the world, and in some cases they are collecting dust, and in other cases people are being kind of coerced into using the technology even though they're not quite certain exactly how they should be using the technology, and whether the manner in which they're using it is getting any of the gains that they're seeking. So how does your administrative team support you in helping you get the knowledge that you need, and also what do they offer the teachers, or what do you offer the teachers as a digital literacy coach to help bring everybody's skill level up, and their comfort level up, and their anxiety down?
Well, I think it starts with the administration supporting. They support us by creating our team. We have a wide IT staff that's do all the behind the scenes work, all the real tech side, and then they brought in the coaches. So there's 3 coaches at my school, and then a head of technology.
How many students do you have, just out of curiosity?
Almost 2,000 at my school.
So 2,000 students, 3
coaches,
digital coaches, basically, and how many tech people to support those 1,000 devices?
About 6 or 7.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big team.
That's tremendous. That's tremendous.
Yeah. Putting resources into people is the first step, and then also putting a lot of obviously money into the infrastructure, making sure we have reliable internet, making sure that we have systems to manage devices, and then also getting all these resources, like I was talking about, robots and microbits and all these things. They do cost a lot of money when you're looking at mass numbers. So just giving us sufficient funds, and in terms of professional development, they are open for us to go in professional development, so we can go and learn and bring things back to the teachers. They're also open for teachers to go and seek professional development in regards to ed tech. And then, we work with the teachers, during meetings and so on, with different tools, and we do some upskilling, and teachers are facilitating lessons when we're in the class with them. So they're kind of learning alongside us with the students. Yeah, so it creates a really, welcoming and a real supportive environment.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. Private IB school in Hong Kong.
You got the private IB money going. That's nice.
Yeah.
How was your own adjustment moving to Hong Kong? How did that go for you?
It was a major adjustment moving to Korea. So it wasn't as big of an adjustment moving to Hong Kong. I do remember just driving into the city the first time on the bus and just being absolutely mind blown, the size of the buildings, and yeah, I just thought, where am I? What is this place? It's more amazing than you can ever imagine. That first moment. Have you guys been to Hong Kong before?
I have not.
Okay, well, if you come to Hong Kong, just remember when I'm saying that first bus ride in, it's absolutely a mind blowing place.
Wow.
And I'm now 9 years in here, and yeah, I still love it.
As a history teacher, and Nick's a history teacher as well, I've taught about Asia, I've taught about Hong Kong, and taught about China, but never had the opportunity to go. And but it's always captured my imagination, and I know it's quite different than the China that I taught about years ago. Yeah. I know every year it kind of takes on a whole new iteration of itself, but just seemingly just spectacular in every way that you're describing.
Yeah, Hong Kong's changing a lot, but what's changing even more is the cities to the north of us, the Greater Bay Area, Shenzhen, and specifically.
And what's happening there?
So that's where all of the technology is coming out of. So all the big tech companies, cell phones, and like DJI, the drone company, and that's all of the innovators are now coming out of Shenzhen. So the tech's not coming from very far for delivery.
Are you suggesting that Hong Kong and China are going to be eating our lunch soon over here in the West?
Well, they're saying it's the new Silicon Valley.
Wow.
It's the development's been mind blowing. I went to Shenzhen my first time, I guess 9 years ago, and now when I go, it's not recognizable. It's it has just as many skyscrapers almost as Hong Kong does now. It's really a beautiful place.
So, do you have consistent Wi-Fi or internet connectivity there, given that the proximity to Beijing and all of the political overtones that come along with having a free and democratized internet?
Yeah, we have no problems in Hong Kong. No interruptions whatsoever.
I imagine a few miles away in China, it's not quite the same situation.
No. Yeah, when you go into China, you look and you're like, I can't check Twitter, WhatsApp, anything that I normally use. So, I don't have a VPN when I go over. So I know people who live there, they need one to survive. And I think Lainey was talking about that last week on the podcast.
Yes, that's true. So for those who perhaps didn't listen to episode 32, we had interviewed Lainey Morgan, who's a teacher at the American School in Hong Kong. So what is your connection? I know your colleagues, and that's actually how we kind of came to know you, was through Lainey. So what is your connection to Lainey?
She just gets involved in the community here. It's a really great community we have. We get together fairly often for different events. There's a company called 21st Century Learning, and they host a lot of great events, teach meets, and a big conference every year. Along with that, there's a meetup called Pub PD, where we get together and we participate in a Twitter chat, and then we also sit and have a beverage with each other and chat about what's going on. And I think that was how I met Lainey the first time, was through Pub PD. We linked up on Twitter, and it's been awesome. I get to see all the incredible things she's doing in her class.
Nick, is it me? But I think we have to start Pub PD where we are.
Definitely.
Yeah, and like maybe even this afternoon we should get the first one going.
Yeah. When we
Mark
finish this
feels
call.
very left out.
I mean, it's past 5 o'clock in Hong Kong now, right? So
Oh yeah, it's 10 o'clock, so you should be you
Yeah.
should have been pub PDing for a while.
that's a fair point. I want to go back into the classroom and really just look at this sort of on a more granular level. So you have your students, and you're introducing them to robots or coding, and they're working with all the different manipulatives. Take us through how that transitions into the major subject areas and the test-driven curriculum that is created, and the assessments that go on throughout the year and at the end of the year. So how does that translate into the other kind of more traditional learning?
So that test-driven curriculum and those assessments are not part of my reality. We don't have that in the PYP. Instead, at the end of a unit, we have like a end of unit project. I guess it could be a test, and maybe there are some tests that happen in math and English and so on. But in regards to anything that I'm a part of, there's no tests, nothing like that. We do have some tech that supports formative assessment. Some of like the quiz software, like Quizzes or Kahoots or so on, things like that. Mm-hmm. But not real stressful environments. It's just a friendly quiz for students to check in, on where they're at in their understanding.
So who forces them to write a 5-paragraph essay on something they don't care about?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, sorry for the sarcasm there.
I haven't seen that. I've heard about it, but it doesn't exist where I'm at.
Well, believe me, it's not Bigfoot. It's real, and it's everywhere around these parts, unfortunately.
Okay.
But it's a breath of fresh air to hear you describe that environment, because I think that's a lot closer to where we need to be here with our school system. We have way too much of a reliance on the way we've always done things, yet we're trying to simultaneously introduce groundbreaking technology and ask people to do both of these things at the same time. Mm-hmm. And you can't serve two masters.
No,
in my opinion.
I know the local system here is very different. I did work in a local system my first year, which is it's a very long time ago. It was about 9 years ago. Mm-hmm. I was teaching English, and it was a page out of a book each day, and the homework was a page out of that book, and I had to have it marked with my red pen and had to mark it a certain way, and I was creating tests and exams, and I knew that, it was the type of environment that I didn't want to be a part of, so I left fairly quickly.
You're describing our environment.
No. Well, just move to Hong Kong. The dim sum here is great.
Nice. So we get the Pub PD and dim sum. Nick, why are we still here?
You can go from Pub PD to dim sum at the late night joints.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You had me at hello, Ryan.
Yeah. Well, anytime you come, I'll come. I'll take you guys out for dim sum.
I hope that we get to take you up on that for sure.
Okay.
So, Ryan, I noticed that you are a frequent user of Twitter, and
Mm-hmm.
So how do you find Twitter in terms of your professional development, and to what extent do you use Twitter for the work that you do with working with teachers and kids?
Basically, the first maybe year or so, I just used Twitter just to look for ideas. I was really like the lone soldier at my when I was starting to integrate technology at my school. We didn't have any technology. We had a few computers, some home internet at the school that barely worked, and I was just trying to rustle up any ideas at all that I could try to integrate into my school, and I did that through Twitter. And then I left it aside for maybe half a year or so, and I came back, picked it up, and I started seeing that a lot was a lot was happening. So I made sure to keep with it, kept looking for ideas, started bringing some of the ideas into my classroom, started feeling confident enough to share on Twitter, then started people telling me, that's a great idea, keep sharing. I was getting motivated from other people, coaching me along. And then, I don't know, a year or two ago, I just really jumped in and, built up my personal learning network, our professional learning network, my PLN, finding, educators, from around the world that I thought had an inspiring feed with lots of great ideas. Started sharing more often, participating in, Twitter chats, bookmarking different ideas and using them, and just found that as my main source of professional development.
And what about for your students? Do you have them utilize Twitter in any way?
The students are not on Twitter.
Too young?
Too young, yeah. They're one of the year levels does have an account, and the students create the Twitter post, give it to the teacher, and then the teacher will tweet it. And they can see the impact that those tweets are having, but they don't actually have the account, and they're not communicating on it at all. But some of the closed communities, like I was mentioning before, Seesaw, Google Classroom is another great one. It's where the students are, communicating, collaborating all in one space, kind of like Twitter, just with their classmates, their teachers, or their families, and so on. And I really think these communities are good preparation for Twitter, because in these communities, it's really important that they are, responsible users. And I think what the values they learn in these closed communities that they then apply to larger community like Twitter later, definitely prepares them and will make sure that they're, more responsible using that tech.
I just got one final Canada question, if that's okay.
Sure.
One of the most impressive students I've ever taught is heading to the University of Toronto next year.
Nice.
She's gonna have a good time.
Oh boy, she's gonna have a great time.
It's a great school.
I don't know a lot about the school. I didn't go there, but I know it has a great reputation. It's a beautiful campus. It's in a wonderful part of the city. Toronto's just a bustling place. Great food scene, great sports scene, music scene. It's got it all. Lots of nice hikes throughout the city, parks. I love going back to Toronto every chance I get.
How often do you get to go back home?
I was going back yearly. Now I'm, every year, every other year. I try to get back. All my family and friends are there. So I also, enjoy traveling. So sometimes I, take a summer off and go travel.
Does the international school cover any of your expenses if you're coming from Canada or the United States?
Yeah, it depends what school you're working at. Some will give you a flight every year. Some will give you a flight every other year, depending on your contract length, and some just don't give flights. So just depending on your package. But
do they assist with housing or anything like that, or help you at least find a placement?
They don't There's a few schools that help you find a place, or maybe even have a place for you on campus. But in Hong Kong, property is scarce, so. We get a housing allowance, but they don't help us find our place. Some schools don't give a housing allowance. Just depends where you work. There's lots of different schools here, so it's a wide variety.
As a tech leader, if you could be king for a day and shape things in your vision, what's the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years? What should that look like?
You mean at my school, or in Hong Kong, or just in education in general?
Let's say your school and education in general.
If I was king, I guess I would just make sure that I was surrounded with people who had the same vision that I do, and that would want learning to look more like the way we learn in society, and less like the way we learned, or I learned, when I was in school. I remember the days of sitting in class really unengaged, sitting in university classes feeling the same way. And that's just, it doesn't need to be like that anymore. We just don't live in that society anymore. We have, all these devices. We have AI coming where we can, ask questions to whoever it is, Siri, Alexa, and we'll get an answer in a split second. So we need to utilize these things, and we need to change the way we learn and change the way that schools look. So I think it's just about surrounding myself with people who understand the way society, the world has changed and want, have the same vision to apply that to the way school looks.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a wonderful vision and something that I definitely share with you and would love to see those kinds of changes. There are so many things that we're doing that we don't need to do anymore, at least
No.
the same way.
No.
And it doesn't mean that everything that we've done in the past is meritless. It just means that we have to take what worked. I'm not a proponent of throwing out the baby with the bathwater. We just have to take what worked and find a way to use all these new digital tools to transform it and take it to the next level, because that's what tools do. They help you do the thing that you couldn't do without them.
Definitely. I feel like the amazing teachers I had growing up shaped who I am. And I couldn't be in this role, in this place, and at this stage in my development if it wasn't for them. So I still think there's, a need for teachers to develop students, develop thinking routines and behaviors in students. I just think that the way knowledge is transferred is totally changed, and it doesn't need to be done the same way. And teachers need to be more, in a coaching role for students, more of a cheerleading role to cheer them on, to help them with whatever needs they may have. And, not to force them in any way, but just to, lightly guide them, just in a facilitator role. Yeah.
Right. Help them craft the questions that they then can go seek the answers to.
Definitely. Yeah. And steer them in the right direction to find those answers, and to just develop their passions, develop their interests. There's children who are, maybe, 10 years old that are on YouTube or on different social media platforms, making millions of dollars right now, doing something that they love at that age. And imagine, all students could be doing that, not necessarily making millions of dollars, but just doing whatever they love doing at that age, and doing it really, really well. Imagine where they're going to be when they're 15, 20, 25 years old. It's incredible to think of.
There are teachers all over the world who are echoing those statements, but it's just, in my opinion, we just don't have the leadership at the top trying to, spread it to everybody. Because there's wonderful teachers everywhere in every school, but there's still people that are just, we say resistant to change, but I just think they're not being led properly. They just expect that they have to do things the old way.
Yeah, and a lot of that resistance comes from the top. Because people who have made it to the top are afraid to take risks. I think someone in the classroom feels a little bit more confident in taking a risk because they have so much more autonomy in that classroom to help guide it and find success. But I think the people who have climbed that ladder feel perhaps a little bit more isolated up there and at risk. And they adopt, in many cases, a philosophy that if something worked last year and I was able to keep my job, let's replicate last year because it ended well for me. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it was the right thing to do or couldn't be done better.
There's the top. There's a lot of different people and a lot of different structures, and it's very difficult to make change when you have so many cooks. Sometimes there's too many cooks. So maybe if there's some less cooks and just a smaller group of people who all had the same vision and mission working together, maybe change could happen a little bit faster. And there's very innovative schools all over the world that I learn about. You can connect with people on Twitter from these schools, and they're doing some incredible things. And all the things that I'm preaching and talking about, surrounding myself with like-minded individuals, which I can say I am. I'm trying my best right now to surround myself with here in Hong Kong and at my school. There's schools that are very well developed in that area. So it is happening, just maybe not on the widespread scene like it should be.
Well, you have two additional like-minded educators across the Pacific and a whole lot of landmass here in New York who are with you for sure. So, Ryan, you've really been a wonderful guest today on the podcast, and thank you so much for sharing of your story and your experience and your expertise. We really, really appreciate how well you were able to articulate all of that for us.
My pleasure. It's awesome meeting you guys.
Yes, thank you very much, and best of luck in the future.
Thank you. Keep fighting the good fight over there.
Thank you. So just a little follow-up on our end here. If you would like to follow us, you could find us at Apple Podcasts, the State of Ed Podcast. You could also find us on the web, and that's where you'll find any links for show notes and things that we discussed. You could, of course, follow us on Twitter at SOE Podcast, or if you'd like to follow me individually on Twitter, at Marc Isix. You can also follow Ryan at MRKPYP, Mr. K PYP.
Yes.
And if you're interested, I have a copy of my book that's coming out. Well, I guess all the copies are coming out in June. It's called Forward Fast, Making Sense of Education in an Era of Rapid Change. And it definitely touches upon a lot of the things that we discussed here in this podcast today. And that's available wherever books are sold. So again, thank you so much to Ryan. And we really appreciate him being on and sharing his Saturday evening. It's our Saturday morning, but his Saturday evening. And really appreciate him and his willingness to come on the podcast with us.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you.
Have a great one.